Hi there, welcome to Chairland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Gemini energy. And like usual on this channel, we're going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as high vibe Gemini, the bottom row a more worldly, shadowy Gemini energy. Because we all have to make decisions in our life, and the bottom row can kind of represent our more worldly nature that we're influenced by. And our more hopeful, believing nature might want us to live our life a little differently, but we have to battle this out within ourselves. And that can kind of be the Tower card, battling within ourselves, because there's a part of us that wants to do things differently, but there can be a part of us or in other people that they kind of want to keep doing things the same. And there can be a lot of reasons. The bottom row can represent our comfort zone. We'd have to step out of our comfort zone. The Tower can be about dealing with the truth, speaking the truth, taking action in your truth, detaching from old habits, patterns, vices, people. Our shadow nature covers a lot of things. It could be our pride, our ego, our fear, working through our past pain and heartbreak, having more hope and faith and belief, and we could be used to not having more hope and faith and belief, working through our lack mentality, and then whatever kind of stage of life we can be at and how we live life or view life, we're going to probably be hanging out with some other people who live life that way too or think that way, and then those people might not like it if we move forward in life differently because they don't plan to live life differently, and that can cause upset in workplaces, friendships, or relationships. So, the reason for the bottom rose reading is a card not showing itself, which is the moon. So, the moon is Pisces energy. With it not showing itself, some people, the moon in Pisces can talk about listening to your intuition. The moon also rules Cancer energy. Pisces and Cancer are two of the water signs, about connecting with your emotions and your intuition and offering love to yourself or others. And some people can have a lot of fear of love. Some people have a real fear of listening to their intuition. We've all listened to our intuition before, and we've gotten in friendships or relationships with people, and it didn't work out the way we wanted. But the reason we could have been drawn and attracted to those people is because we had lessons to learn from those people. It's about trying to get us to get clear about our truth. Is this aligned with my truth or isn't it? And lately I've really been viewing the Tower card as like Gemini energy, because we're trying to build a foundation, but Gemini talks about our dualistic nature. Are we more motivated and inspired by like truth and love and growing and healing and maturing ourselves? Or are we more about the world, indulging ourselves, our defensive nature, indulging others, indulging poor behavior in ourselves or others, and all those other things for reasons why people could be in a relationship or live their life the way they do it? And some people are really afraid of doing love again. For one, you'd have to come out of your ego. And at the end of the reading, in the bottom row, we have the Eight of Swords, which is Gemini energy. You'd have to quit living more from your mind than your heart and trying to play it safe. And in this picture, it's a feminine figure, generally is what it's depicted as. And the feminine figures can talk about how we think and feel. The masculine energies can represent how we're presenting ourselves in the world and action that we're taking. And some people would prefer to live more from their self-protected, defensive, egoic nature. And emotionally, down here we have the Queen of Cups, which again talks about how people think and feel. Emotionally, they might like to not do love with the Death card and the King of Cups, and I view the King of Cups as Cancer energy, love of self, love of others. Emotionally, in their Scorpio nature, I view both the Queen of Cups and the Death card as Scorpio. That's the third water sign energy. And Scorpio can talk about, I like to stay in my comfort zone. And so some people like to stay in their comfort zone. I don't want to do things differently. That could bring up a lot of fear for me or something. So I don't want to do love. And in a shadowy King of Cups, Some people who are defensive to love like to hide behind their more self-protective defensive nature, whether they're male or female. They want to be in relationships with people, and so they kind of wear a false mask, trying to present themselves as someone who's more motivated and inspired by love. But the kings can represent, whether people are male or female, it's how they're presenting themselves in the world. They're really, the masculine cards can represent that they're more operating from their worldly egoic nature. So that's where they're hiding, that they're just creating an illusion, is what the moon can talk about. And for some people, that's how they want to live their life. I don't want to put in work and effort from love. That gets me up in my head. I have fear of that. That would require me to change. That would require me to work through my fears or my insecurities or my past pain and heartbreak. That all takes work and effort. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to keep doing this. But because I want to be in a relationship with other people, it's like they come up with this idea, which is not a good idea in the tower. So for some people that are in high vibe energy, they were dealing with some people who presented themselves like they're not more inspired by themselves or the world or their defensive nature or self-protective nature. They create the illusion like, oh no, I've detached from that. I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready in the Eight of Cups and the Two of Cups to do love. And the difference between the Eight of Cups and the Two of Cups is the Six of Cups, which is Scorpio energy. And that, the Six of Cups can talk about, I'm not going to repeat any of those old patterns of the past. I've put that behind me. And I've also worked through those issues from my past. I've freed myself from those things. I'm ready to move forward with you in the Six of Cups and do like a deep, meaningful relationship. That's high vibe Scorpio. But some of those people, that's not the truth of who they are, really. They could want to be in a relationship because they feel more unstable, defensive, want to get in a relationship. They're an unstable energy, wanting to get in relationships with people to feel more balanced and more stable. They also might want to get in relationships with some high vibe people so those people won't exchange resources with people in the world who are more inspired by their truth. I don't want you to go get in a relationship with someone who's more like you, says the shadowy people. I want you to get in a relationship with me. Don't exchange resources with your more high vibrational nature. High vibe Leo, high vibe Taurus. Don't act with character and integrity. Don't invest in your truth. Don't stand up for yourself. Don't love and believe in yourself. Don't go get in a relationship with other people who are more on the same page as you. Let those people go and come be in a relationship with me. But some of those people are shadowy. Now, there can be other people in your life who they really did do this work within themselves. And this is where you have to listen to your intuition. Be willing to get to know people. And maybe in the Six of Pentacles and the Seven of Wands could be saying don't get in a more involved relationship with them. You know, kind of like the Tower card can be like, don't do that. You know, just get to know people. Get to know them, work with them, you know, invest some time, energy, and effort into getting to know them. You know, maybe get to know them or their family or their friends. And, you know, just kind of in high vibe Gemini, listen to your intuition about kind of what you think more drives and motivates them. You know, maybe why did some other friendships or relationships not work out? You know, tell me about, if you know, getting to know people and maybe even things in their life, in their career field, you know, how did, you know, it's just to get to know them, to find out and get a feel for them. And if, as you kind of get to know some people, maybe you could feel like they're not being more forthcoming. That's like not harnessing high vibe Leo and kind of maybe trying to confuse you about the truth. The Eight of Swords trying to confuse you about the truth. Sometimes shadowy people are hoping that because of your own fears and insecurities and your maybe own defensiveness of believing in yourself, standing up for your truth and what you believe in, and maybe your want, in our worldly nature, we can be tempted that we want to be in friendship and relationship with people, that people will hope we won't stand up for our truth and will kind of settle. And some people want you to settle for the illusion that it's love. But they really want to juggle people because they're defensive to the truth and taking more creative, inspired action in their life because, partly that's not their truth, So people are hiding, some people in the world are hiding that they do want to live a life of illusion. I want to be in a relationship to be in a relationship, don't you? That'd be great, wouldn't it? We would have someone to work with. We'd be happy. I like you, you like me. There's things we got in common. We get along well enough. But let's do it more for those reasons or these reasons of the world. Let's just create the illusion that it's love. But let's not really do love. I don't want to have to come out from behind my ego and I don't want to have to put an end to wearing my false mask. I don't want to have to become independent of my self-protective defensive nature. I don't want to align with my more hopeful, believing, loving nature, because then I can't kind of go back and forth. As in here we had the Two of Pentacles, and that can kind of be about going back and forth. And that's what some people want to do. In our Gemini nature, Gemini talks about our dualistic free will nature. We can either be more motivated and inspired by truth and love, and some people, they are. Other people are definitely, they know their truth. They're more motivated to be about themselves. Things they indulge in, or status or ego or image or something, is the most important thing as far as they're concerned. They could think love is just an illusion. And that can be people who live more from their mind than their heart, and Gemini is air sign energy, but anybody in their own Gemini nature within themselves, we all tap into all the zodiac signs, and we either harness them in a more high vibe way, a more worldly way, a more shadowy way. And some people have definitely know their truth, and that's how they live their life. And then there's the people that can't decide. Hiding maybe in the moon card not showing itself, that they're still kind of confused. They really don't know. I don't know if I want to do truth and love, justice and fairness, if I want to be more about me or more about the world. And my gosh, I can't decide, is kind of what the Eight of Swords can be. And it could keep them stuck. To complete a cycle, there's a maximum of 10 in every suit. So in order to complete a cycle, someone would have to work through those last two swords. This is the 8. We need to get through the 10. And the Two of Swords is Libra energy, represented by the scales of justice. What do I think is just and fair? And am I willing to love myself, become more independent of my own more shadowy nature, immature nature, self-protective, defensive nature? Am I willing to get more balance within myself? High vibe energy is about being balanced. It's acknowledging I have a shadowy nature. We all do. We can't get rid of it. We have the knowledge of the tree of good and evil, the seeds of both planted within us. Do we make that free will choice? I want justice. And that requires me to acknowledge the truth. I do have a shadowy nature of my more worldly ego egoic nature, and I do have my more hopeful, believing, loving nature. Am I going to make that free will choice to choose to align with my more hopeful, believing, loving nature, not let my more shadowy nature that really doesn't have my best interest at heart? You know, it's kind of like us in our worldly vessel of ourself. We're a human being. There's all the different thoughts and emotions and feelings that we could invest in. All those are the options that we have available to us. I can be hopeful, believing, mad, sad, jealous, envious, self-pity, greed, lust, anger. All those are options as a human being, to pick from. And we have free will. Some people did, and that you could repeat a lot of patterns, and we all have a lot of lessons to learn. And we've all been more immature. We've all been more fearful. We've all been more insecure. We've all been self-indulgent. We all haven't loved and believed in ourselves at times in our life, But high vibe people could have done those things, but they could have been more inspired. Their truth in high vibe Virgo is that they are more motivated and inspired by love. But they can love people and they can hope for the best and they can get in friendships and relationships with people. But sometimes we didn't want to see the truth, and that can be that Two of Swords, which I don't have it out here, but the Two of Swords generally is depicted as someone holding the two swords and they have a blindfold on. In shadow, it can kind of be that we just haven't learned to listen to our intuition yet. And then, we think we know best and we got these lessons to learn. And so we are drawn and attracted to certain people and we want to go indulge in these things and we go do it. And the people who are more motivated and inspired, harnessing these energies in a high vibe way, are aligned with their more hopeful, believing, loving nature. They're less caught up in the illusion of themselves and things of the world. Do they want some of these things of the world? Yeah, we'd all like to be in friendship and relationship, have some stability and security in our life, but it doesn't manipulate them the way it can manipulate some people they harness it in a more worldly, shadowy way. They're happier living more from their mind than their heart. Probably don't want to align with their more emotionally intuitive, loving nature, kind of reject that. And then we can get in relationships in these more mismatched relationships. And the high vibe people think, oh, everybody's motivated by love. I'm sure they'll detach from those more immature ways of being, defensive ways of being. I'm sure they'll be motivated and inspired by love and they'll let go of being more kind of in their philosophy of life. The Six of Pentacles of Taurus can talk about our philosophy of life. I'm sure they'll quit being more inspired kind of within themselves to align with their more self-protected defensive nature or ego nature in their Leo energy. I'm sure they'll let go of that and they'll choose love. Well, sometimes some people could grow up and heal and mature themselves, and sometimes some people don't. And when we could have gotten in relationships with some people, we might not wanted to have seen the truth of this card. What is it? The Nine of Wands, which is Sagittarius energy, which can be, it can be that some people are just more immature, more defensive, have illusions about what it means to be in a relationship, kind of like to more about defensive to love. So they kind of wear a false mask. People get in relationships with them, and over time, people who get in relationships with them, they can like them, they can enjoy their company, they could love them, but it's kind of like it won't be. Taurus talks about, this philosophy of life that we have. It will never. We have a different philosophy of life. Our truth is different in our Gemini nature, in our Taurus energy, in our Leo energy. Are you in your philosophy of life and your truth more inspired by truth and love or not? And the fact is, some people are not. And we have a hard time accepting it. And then it can be really hard for people to accept the truth of it and distance themselves from those people, because in a lot of ways they could enjoy the relationship. They might not be hurtful or unkind or mean or whatever. They might do the best that they can from a more self-protective, defensive nature to work together with people because they could enjoy and want to be in long-term relationships with people. They just have this fear of listening to their intuition. But the problem is, love gives birth to new things. You detach. The Tower talks about detaching from an old way of living life or viewing life. We detach from being more like a 15-year-old to become a 21-year-old, to become like a 25-year-old. Love keeps giving birth to that next new version of ourselves. Facing our fears, getting out of our ego, working through our fears and our insecurities to love and believe in ourselves enough that I'm ready to go to that next phase of life. And that's when the people who are when you're in a more mismatched relationship, the truth sets you free to move to the next phase of life. If some people are kind of faking the phase of life that they're at, kind of living more from their mind than their heart, I'm not more stable, I'm not more grounded, I'm not more hopeful and believing and motivated by love, but I'm trying to present myself as that type of person. Well, now that person wants to go to another phase of life, and I'm already faking the phase of life that I'm living. This isn't the truth of who I am even right now. How do I possibly fake another level? It's just if you're trying to present yourself as more stable and grounded and confident, right? And then other people that you could be hanging around with are more stable and grounded and confident, and they're ready to kind of, let's go do this and we should go do that. And it's just like, oh my gosh, that's not the truth of who I am. And, it's just out of their comfort zone. And again, we all like to stay in our comfort zone. And that's when, the people who might be a little more shadowy, it could really get them up in their head as the people that they're in relationship with start to work through some of the things that used to manipulate them, and they kind of make peace with some of those things. They kind of heal and grow and mature themselves, and they kind of become independent of a phase of life. They're changing, is in high vibe what the death card talks about. Death and transformation. I did work through some of the things of my fears and insecurities. I'm ready. It set me free. I've learned how to make peace with some issues from my past. I'm ready to get out of my ego about some of those things. Those things aren't going to manipulate me the way they used to, because I offered this love to myself and I kind of listened to my intuition and put in this work and effort. In the Ten of Cups, I want to close out that phase. And just like I lived life at a certain stage of life, I was 18, I was 21, I was 25. I don't want to live my life that way forever. I'm ready to move on, and I've worked through my fears and my insecurities. And what the more worldly, shadowy people didn't know about the more high vibrational people they got in a relationship with is they didn't realize that the high vibe people in their life harness these energies in a high vibe way. High vibe Sagittarius is about higher learning and education. I want to wrap my brain around this game of life. I got my same fears and insecurities just like other people in the world, and I've been hurt and I've been wounded, and I've had people be detached from me and not want to be in a friendship or relationship with me. I've gone through endings in my life. I've maybe had people who could have been more bossy or controlling or stubborn or whatever. But I don't like those things continuing to manipulate me. So I am going to offer love to all those things. I'm going to do this work. The feminine figures and kind of the moon, in a way, and Virgo can talk about doing these things that other people don't see you doing it. It's things you do within yourself, emotionally working through some issues of your past so that you can emotionally, high vibe Scorpio, detach from those things. I offered love to myself and the situation to just accept that everybody is where they were at. But I don't, and I want to be happy. So I'm going to invest more time, energy, and effort into maybe focusing on where I want to go than where I've been. And as we offer love to those things in the past, we see where we were more immature, all those things. We also see where other people were. We can only take responsibility for our part and see where we need to work through some issues. Those people have to do that themselves if they want to. Some of them might someday, some of them didn't, some of them won't. But I don't want to keep living in illusion or fear or not loving myself. I want to free myself from things that manipulate me. And so they do that work within themselves, and that does, whether they know it or not, it kind of frees them from an old way of being and viewing life or viewing themselves. They work through the pain, the heartbreak, the fears, the insecurities, or whatever. They made peace with something in their past. That sets them free to move forward in life differently. And they're kind of inspired, I would say, within themselves to, keep moving forward. When you do things that you kind of see, wow, that was a better choice and option to take action in that way, or do those things than some of the things I used to do that I might have done more out of pain, heartbreak, fear, insecurity, codependency. And then you kind of become independent of some of those old ways of living life and kind of make peace with it. The sixes can talk about balance also. The 2 cups can talk about balance. I've kind of made peace with some of those things and also kind of seeing the truth that I don't want to get back. I don't want to live my life like that again, and I don't want to be in relationships with people who are kind of still living their life that way or have those viewpoints or attitudes or ways of treating people. And I'm going to get out of my ego about it. Everybody has the free will to live their life the way they want it. I live my life the way I've lived my life. Do I want to keep living my life that way? No. I want to move forward. I want to become independent of some of those old ways of being. And some people in my life are happy still living their life that way. It's like, can you know people, hang out with them? Yeah, but I'm not going to maybe do that as much as I did or indulge in things to the degree that I did, It wasn't moving my life forward. And it can be scary because there might be some people in our life, well, if you go do that and you're not doing this, then, I'm not going to invest in you anymore. I'm going to, we know that those people will probably more invest in the people that are still doing those things or indulging in those things to that extent, want to hang out more with those people. And we all, at those phases of life, could have been happy living our life that way, but we kind of realized it wasn't kind of moving our life forward, and we could have realized part of it was a fear, high vibe energy, and the 8 of Cups going to the 9 of Cups can talk about becoming independent of some old past patterns. And then that kind of starts to wear on your self-esteem and your foundation of yourself. And again, it's realizing I need to listen to my intuition. I think it's my fear or whatever of being more independent or believing in myself or believing in my dreams or standing up for myself that I keep doing this. And if I keep doing this, my dream and what I'm trying to accomplish is never going to get accomplished. And that's when some people work through all of that and they decide, no, I need to become independent of some of these things, habits, people, if I want, to kind of go to that next phase of life. And I think, high vibe people would have offered truth and love and truth to the people in their life, their family, their friends, a workplace, whoever it is, community, who wants to move forward with me in this way. I'm kind of ready to become independent of it. And again, some people won't, some people will. The tower can be that people are kind of shocked maybe at what people become more defensive and which people are willing to work with you in that way, you know? And, if you want to not repeat some of those patterns or keep living your life that way, happy to work with some of the people who are willing to work with you in that way, kind of up in your head about some of the people in your life who weren't willing to move forward in that way. And it's kind of making peace with it, that everybody has the free will to live their life the way they want. And if this isn't their truth, that's not their truth. And again, sometimes we've had people in our life who were ready to kind of move forward differently, and we were like, no way, man, I'm going to keep doing this. So we've all kind of been on both sides of it probably at different times in our life. But when we do move forward, we kind of make peace with what we're moving away from, ready to invest in closing out an old cycle, and kind of, it helps us work through the towers about kind of revealing the truth. Who are the people in our life that maybe really aren't willing to put in work and effort to work with us and keep wanting us to heal and grow and mature ourselves, and who's willing to put in work and effort to become more independent of some things. We might kind of see through the illusion of some people that could have created the illusion that, oh no, I don't want to keep doing this, and oh no, I'm going to grow up, or I'm going to temper my ego or my fears, or be more independent from whoever or whatever manipulates them, but they don't. And so, and that could be part of the reason is maybe eventually we could start to feel like people are just kind of more creating an illusion, and it's not really love, and they are maybe kind of juggling the truth. And it never seems to move forward in the Knight of Pentacles and the Eight of Wands. Some people are never willing to take accountability for themselves in the Judgment card. Don't want to make that decision, but want people to keep moving forward with them in a relationship, but they don't ever really want it to move forward in a way. Let's just kind of keep doing this. And that's when some people are like, you can keep doing that. I'm going to go do this. And, that with some of those people that, depending on the situation and what could have taken place, because with some of the people, what could have taken place was something that definitely showed you the truth that you needed to get out of that job, friendship, or relationship. Nothing maybe was going to change, and you could have seen some more shadowy behavior in some people. And that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier, that if some people are kind of hiding the truth, I have this way of how I like to live life. This is my truth. I don't want to work through these issues to do this, which can be they don't really want to do a high vibe Scorpio relationship. Death to love. I do not want to become independent of maybe more where I emotionally indulge my more defensive nature, immature nature. And I don't really want to do a more deep, meaningful relationship because that puts me in the danger zone. I have to be vulnerable. I get hurt. And some people just want to be in a relationship, and it is kind of male or female, just kind of indulging themselves in it. As long as it works for me, it works for you, we get along well enough, we'll be in it. But it never becomes a more high vibe Leo relationship where it's going to be a more deep, meaningful relationship. And the people who are motivated and inspired by love want deep, meaningful relationships. So they eventually work through it all and kind of see the truth of it. And as they maybe distance themselves from some people and see that they decide to go do this with other people instead of doing this with you, you kind of see the truth of their philosophy of life and what they view as we're standing up and defending or victorious and successful, or what motivates them and inspires them. And you kind of work through the illusion of who you thought some of those people were. People who are motivated to be more independent are more independent. They have less things that manipulate them, less people in their life, their ego, their fear, their immature nature. They've kind of grown up and matured themselves, and people who are inspired to put in this work and effort to free themselves again from things that manipulate them do. And people who don't. You either want to work through those things or you don't. And some people are like, nope, emotionally, I do not want to do that. I'm okay. You can go. I'll find someone else to be in friendship or relationship with, or go find a different job. I don't really want to more authentically invest myself in this. And if you won't indulge me in the relationship and let me repeat this old pattern, and you want me to put in work and effort to work through these things, and you're not willing to kind of indulge me in this illusion or this more immature way of viewing life, or how I conduct myself in relationships or a workplace, well, eventually those people, they don't want to work with the more high vibe people in their life. And eventually the more high vibe people in their life don't want to work with them either. you know? But while people are in the midst of it, sometimes what the people who don't want to move forward in life differently, they don't want the other people to move forward in life differently. And that's when their more shadowy nature can come out. Because you've either learned and been enlightened to the truth to work together with people in truth and love to work through things. You have to quit. You have to temper your ego. And you have to detach from some of these more shadowy or manipulative ways of being in a relationship. And some people didn't want to do that. So that's when they decided to repeat some poor past patterns. And it could have been a shadowy death card or Scorpio energy that anyone can harness, is that I'm going to kind of do all these things to try to manipulate you. I don't want you to do that. So I'm going to not invest in you or take action towards you or whatever. And I'm going to do this instead. And I could focus my time, energy, and effort on other people, other things. And they think that the loving people in their life will get up in their head wondering, why aren't those people exchanging resources with me and working with me to move this forward? The Seven of Wands defends the Six of Wands, which is moving forward in something that you view as victorious and successful. Why aren't they doing that? And that probably has worked at other times, maybe at lesser degrees of manipulation in the relationship. And the other people, the high vibe people in their life, didn't want to just give up on the relationship right away. So they kind of maybe did quit investing in some things that they like, that they're motivated and inspired by, or healing and growing and maturing themselves. And they would kind of come back and indulge these people in kind of that shadowy way of being. But then they can amp it up more and more as the other people keep putting, it's kind of like, I love you, I want to be in a friendship or relationship with you, but I also, high vibe energy is balance. I can love other people and want to be in friendship or relationship with them, but I'm also my own individual who has my own things that I like investing in, friends and family and activities that I enjoy doing. And some people, they don't like that. You're more independent of them and they want you to kind of be more codependent. They have a way of living life and viewing life where it could be where they're looking for someone who's more defensive, and possibly maybe when you got in a relationship with some of those people, you really hadn't learned to love yourself. You could be a loving person. You could be someone who kind of will indulge people in their poor behavior because of your hopeful believing nature. And then, that kind of becomes a pattern and a habit. They like you being in that energy. But over time, initially the relationship could have been better. And over time, again, you could have just worked through some of your own issues, could have learned to love yourself, been more independent, made some peace with things from your past. You were less manipulated by your worldly egoic nature, codependent nature, fearful nature. And so then you're kind of at this stage and they're still at that stage. For a while, they could be okay with it. It's like, so long as you don't change too much, it could kind of put them up in your head because you have changed. You're not the same person you were when they got in it. But some of these people, they never really do any of this work within themselves, so they don't change. And it can be very scary when other people are like, oh, wow, you're just, you're learning things at work, you're meeting different people, you're getting involved in other activities, all those things they don't like. Because again, they could be looking for someone who emotionally doesn't love themselves, but can be a loving person, but is going to make it just more about them. So, a high vibe relationship is based on truth and love, justice and fairness, treating other people the way you like to be treated. But you kind of realize you're in an imbalanced kind of relationship, and they kind of like it to be more about them in some way, and them being more indulged in it, male or female. Friend, family member, adult child, or romantic interest, employer, coworkers, whoever. And eventually you kind of make peace with it, and you don't want to keep exchanging resources with people who will kind of harness a more shadowy Gemini, Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, Cancer, Sagittarius, Virgo, Pisces, and this is like Aries and Scorpio. I want to be in relationships with people who have worked through some of those same things that I've worked through, to some degree, that those ways of living life or viewing life or acting or behaving or things that motivate and inspire you, they've kind of went to this next phase of life. And then as you move forward in that next phase of life, letting go of some of the people in your life and not exchanging resources with them because you kind of figured out the kind of relationship dynamic that they like, or a way of living life that they want to keep living that you don't want to keep living. And then as you're getting to know other people, it can just be getting to know people and working with the people in your life who do work together with you that way. And some people then, they get out of one phase, they move to the next phase, and other people are already completed that phase and they're moving on to the next one. Some of you know some people and get to know them, and they've completed that phase, they're at this phase, but you're ready to leave this phase and move to the next phase. And again, it's like, who's ready to move forward, face their fears, temper their ego, or whatever it is, to go to that next phase? And some people are like, these people are way back here watching the other people do it. These people are like, no, I'm still good at this phase, and high vibe people to a degree who can be these change makers kind of in a way in the world, maybe much more kind of independent, have a lot less things in their life that manipulate them inside them and outside of them. And, there's always can always be some people who are going to keep moving forward with you. There's going to be new people you meet. Some of the people that you know right now, as you're thinking of moving forward, some of those people like you are doing this work to close out a cycle, make peace with some things in their life, face their fears. They also are ready to complete this phase and go to that next phase. And it can always be kind of shocking to other people in a way that some people keep being more independent. Some people keep being motivated and inspired to love and believe in themselves. They work through their fears and insecurities. They maintain balance within themselves. They don't take action more out of pride or ego or fear or insecurity or lust or greed. They want these more stable, balanced, loving relationships with people who are independent. And the high vibe people in your life that could approach you or you are working with you don't want you to quit being in friendship and relationship with them. Just like you have some people in your life that you don't want them to, you want to keep working together. So there could be some people don't want you to move forward in the way you want to move forward, kind of in a more just, fair, balanced, authentic, loving relationship. And there's other people that are like, I want to be that person in your life or your friend in that way. And with those people put in the work and effort from love to maintain balance within themselves so they don't sabotage the relationship by kind of going back and forth or acting in their more defensive nature or egoic nature. And there could be some people in your life right now, if some of you, some friendships that you're in, some workplaces, some relationships, or if you're married, the high vibe people in your life don't want you to, they're taking accountability. And if you're taking accountability, and some people could be shocked at how well some people keep getting along and for how long some people have gotten along. If you have some long-term friendships or relationships in your life and they could be like, how do those people do that? It's like, well, they all take responsibility within themselves to maintain balance within themselves, to not think it should be more about them. And when they could get up in their head about things, they work with the people in their life and probably work through it. They don't try to manipulate people, don't try to intimidate people, don't try to control people. Don't let themselves get up more in their ego and up in their head and their defensiveness. They offer truth and love to the people so that they can keep staying in the relationship and keep moving forward with them. And again, anytime as we're going through our life, we can kind of be surprised at some people who we could work with at any given moment who do decide, nope, I want to be more defensive, or I want to go repeat this old pattern. I don't want to keep doing this. And then we could be surprised at the people in our life who are more willing to work with us in that way. Even people who previously could have been at this stage of life, and as we're doing this stage, some of those people work through it. They become part of like a friendship group, and other people can drop out, and other people move on ahead of us. And the whole thing is just to not get up in your head about it. Just accept the truth that everybody is kind of where they're at, and work with the people who are willing to work with you. Don't get up in your head about other people that you could know maybe are more bold and brave or confident or motivated and inspired than you are. They got their dreams, and it's kind of like everybody trying to get in a mix of people that are kind of more closely on the same page as them at the same time. But for some people who some people are detaching, no longer exchange. It's like they've emotionally done this work within themselves, no longer interested, kind of seeing through the illusion. The people who are motivated to work together with me in this way would be working together with me. If they're not, then that's not their truth. And I accept the truth of it. I emotionally work through kind of letting go of that. And, you know, those people, I'm not going to kind of keep trying to pursue maybe a relationship. And sometimes some shadowy people in our life, if before in the past you kind of shadowy Sagittarius can be more where you chase people, it's like, no, if I've spoken my truth and love to people, then I can take this time to give them time to work through what they want to do. But I'm not going to chase after people. It's either what they're motivated and inspired by or it's not. And if it's not, I get out of my ego about it. I accept the truth that they're probably investing in things and people and ways of living life that is more aligned with their truth. And I accept that. So then I get out of my ego about it. And some of those people in your life, though, they kind of were maybe trying to manipulate you because, like, you could have told them how you're living your life and they're like, well, damn, I kind of wanted to do this. Well, maybe if I don't work with you, you won't keep loving and believing in yourself. It will destabilize you. Some of those people did not listen to their intuition and you moved on and they're like, well, shit, I would have gotten in a relationship with you, but you would have had to quit doing this and you'd have to do this. And it's like, yeah, so I'm moving forward because I don't want to do that. And then they're like, well, shit, I would have liked to have worked with that person. It's like, what? You didn't listen to your intuition. You know, you have to speak the truth. You have to be willing to communicate and work together with me. And again, some of those people, you know, aren't more aligned with their more hopeful, believing, or brave and confident nature to illuminate the truth. Well, then I'm going to keep moving on. I'm looking for people who have kind of worked through those kind of issues who are willing to do that. And if that's not you, then we're maybe not on the same page. So what's coming up for some people as they're moving forward in their high vibe Gemini energy? And at any time, say if people are in romantic relationships, at any time that we're in a relationship, we could be tempted in our more egoic nature. You know, we can meet people that we are attracted to or whatever. And some people are like, nope, I might have done those kind of things in the past. Those things might have more tempted me. But if I am currently working with people where we work together in this way, I am not going to let go of this because this is something we're standing up and defending. And if I exchange that energy with more shadowy energy, I'm going to repeat a pattern in the past. And, you know, again, if I have just and fair, loving people that, why would I let go of that? So what's coming up for people who harness some high vibe Gemini energy that they might not see coming? The Ten of Wands, the Strength card, the Seven of Cups, the World, the Hermit, and the Five of Pentacles. And the reason is because of the Tower. Well, the Tower can talk about the fact that we maybe weren't wanting to see the truth and we kind of had some hope and faith and belief. Maybe with some people we were just getting to know, you know, and knowing them for a while, but trying to get an idea of what their truth is and what their truth isn't. And we could have been, you know, moving forward with some people, could have been hopeful that maybe something would come of it, but the World card can mean that, you know, it doesn't move forward, and the Tower can mean it doesn't move forward. So it's kind of seeing the truth. Virgo Hermit is about doing this inner work to see the truth, and the Five of Pentacles is detaching from a Four of Pentacles to move forward, like in a new beginning, just seeing the truth, who seems, again, who is putting in the work and effort to close out old cycles, isn't kind of more about themselves or the world, or superficial or shallow or indulgent, or not in relationships with other people, And some people do have options, is what the Seven of Cups can talk about. And because some people have options, they're not ready to move forward yet. So they're somewhere in one of these phases. And other people are ready to move forward. I would like to get to know you more to see if, we're more on that same page. And if some of those people kind of want to keep their options open, it's like, well, I'm ready to move forward. So, you can still stay in the friend zone. But if I see it doesn't seem to be where there's going to maybe be more of an investment than where it's at, I accept the truth of it. And who knows if they'll ever quit considering their options, or they could be more immature, they could be more superficial, shallow, ego. I'm going to keep moving forward in my truth with the people in my life who are moving forward with me. And, you know, and there could be some people in your life that are really, because some people can be attractive and charming and have status or ego or image or whatever, that they could be kind of surprised that you're not a little bit more up in your head about wanting to be in a relationship with them. They might be presenting themselves in a certain way to people to see if some of those people want to be in a relationship with them. And it's like, well, I'm willing to get to know you, but, I guess so long as it stays in that stage, and if some people have maybe kind of given an impression that they would be willing to get to know them more, and it doesn't ever seem to move forward, well then, okay, I guess it stays here, and I guess we won't get in a more involved relationship, and I'm going to keep moving forward. And some people would be like, but I look a certain way, I have a certain status or image in the world, or I can't believe you're not willing to give that up and maybe be a little bit up in your head and maybe chase me a little bit. And it's like, I'm not going to be chasing people. I'm getting to know you. If this moves forward, it moves forward in the natural flow. If it doesn't, then I might get the impression you want me to chase you, and I'm not going to chase you. It either moves forward naturally in the flow of life. And then with some other people, they could really view you as someone they would like to be in a relationship with. And they could just be working through some of their fears and insecurities and kind of working to get out of their ego and listen more to their intuition. And if those people kind of make that effort to equally more work to get to know you more, well, then the relationship kind of might move to a different stage than where it had been. And it kind of moves forward a little differently. If people work through their fears, if that's all it was, of, getting over their own fears, getting to know people, because they've probably known people too who could have presented themselves as more just and fair and loving and found out they weren't. So then you can be a little on guard, they can be a little on guard. And whether that's friends, coworkers, neighborhood people, everybody's had their negative experiences in life. And the people who have don't want to just jump into something. Even if they can be attracted to people, I am not going to kind of let the fact that I could be attracted to someone or like them a lot if I don't really know them, because then in a shadowy Scorpio, it is a little more superficial. I just need to get to know them. And then some people could stay there, and then it could be kind of surprising that some people do want to get to know you more, and they could put an end to hiding that they kind of feel left out in the cold from you. And you also with some people could kind of give the impression, kind of with how you interact with people, that you want to get to know them more, and again, it could be kind of surprising some of the people who are in that energy, again, whether it's coworkers, neighborhood people, who are willing to kind of work through some issues to get to know you a little bit more than maybe before when they were a little defensive or concerned. And it might be kind of surprising who does, who doesn't. But as you're definitely moving forward from some people in your life, when, it's one thing to distance yourself from some people, it's another thing to work through it emotionally, where people who might have wanted to stay in denial of the truth see that you have clearly moved on and made peace with it, and you don't view them as someone you want to be in a relationship with anymore. You don't view that as that would be victorious and successful. And you have closed out a cycle, and you have learned to love yourself, and you are having this new beginning, and you're not in a more worldly, shadowy energy that you could have been before that got you more in those friendships or relationships. You have seen the truth, and you're done hiding and healing and ready to go have this new beginning. And as you keep moving forward, some people in your life could be shocked because they never thought, they could have known that you had love for them. But it's like, I can have love for you and keep my distance from you if I think, you're not very loving or just or fair or immature, want to be indulged. And some of those people will be shocked that you keep not wanting, you're not going to go back and repeat this old pattern. And if they want, any of those people, whether they're friends or family members, want to be in a relationship with you, they got to quit. They got to work through some of their own issues and quit operating more from their ego nature or manipulative nature or prideful nature or stubborn nature, or you're just going to keep moving on. And if some people see the truth of that, they might decide if they want to be in a more involved relationship with you, again, it can be friend or family member, that, kind of work through this kind of illusion that they had in a relationship, that you're just going to kind of keep indulging them. We can have people in our life, especially family, that we can be much more patient with in our life, with them being shadowy. But even them, eventually, it's like, oh my God, yeah, I might see you at Christmas. Other than that, yeah, I really don't care to be around you, And for people that you've indulged before, it's like, well, shit, if I want to have more of a relationship, then I guess when I am around them, I better do a better job at trying to do more equal give and take, or there will not be much of a relationship with here at all. And that's up to them to decide, So what's coming up for some people who might harness a more worldly, shadowy Gemini energy that they might not see coming? Well, for some of those people, they're not listening to their intuition. They could get up in their head, they could have a lot of fears and insecurities of being more independent or loving and believing in themselves or doing love. So odds are, depending on the more shadowy they are, the more immature, the more stubborn, the more prideful, the more defensive to being authentic, the more defensive to doing equal give and take, the more defensive to love, people who want to be more indulged, people who are more immature, indulger, more immature nature, prideful nature, materialistic nature, full of themselves, odds are those people are going to let some high vibe people in their life go, and they're just going to go find someone else to go get in a friendship and relationship with. And if they're already in a relationship with someone, it's just to repeat the pattern again with someone else and see how it works out. And again, if they do not listen to their intuition, that if you're going to be in relationship with people, you should try to work together with them more cooperatively. Quit maybe being so strategic and self-defensive or other immature ways of being, or the same old thing is going to happen again. Until they definitely find someone who's just more on the same page as them and wants to live their life that way too. So what's coming up? A card not showing itself, and the reason is because of the Knight of Pentacles and the Queen of Wands. What's the card not showing itself? Oops. It's a Seven of Wands. So the shadowy people are kind of more invested. I view the Queen of Wands and the Seven of Wands as Leo energy in their own nature within themselves. They're kind of more invested in themselves, in their ego, in their image, wanting to be indulged, defensive. And that's why other people got out of a relationship with them or quit working at that job or something, right? But they try to hide that they're more defensive, that they're more kind of about them or these things of the world. And they sometimes try to get in their self in relationships with people who aren't, because that's kind of good for their ego and image. If I get in a relationship with someone who's more just and fair and authentic and loving and warm and giving, it kind of makes them look like they must be that kind of person. And again, it's all about trying to create this illusion about the truth of who they are. But then when they get in those relationships and they think they've created that illusion about who they are, because there could have been some other people in their life who weren't willing to get in a relationship with them because of some ways that they've been or ways they treated other people or ways they acted in the past. And since those people won't work with them, it's like they're going to go work with people who are kind of more aligned with the competition, which is high vibe people. And then to try to create the illusion, look, I've healed, I've grown, I've matured myself. And then when they think they've adequately created that illusion about who they are, that's when they will create an illusion about why they got out of the relationship with the high vibe people, because that really wasn't their truth. They really want to try to get in a relationship with someone who they might think is more on the same page as them, but that person might not have viewed them favorably or want them to be more mature or wanted them, they could be more about the world or ego or image, and they get in relationships with people to try to create the illusion like they're someone more of status or image or more mature, and then to try to get in a relationship with someone who's more motivated by what they're motivated by. Some of those people already did that and it didn't work out. you know Either they were more kind of mature than those people, and then those people had their own fear about working with them, because I would have to grow up and mature myself. And then I'm also afraid, why are you in a relationship with me when you're in a relationship with someone who is more just and fair and loving than me? And some of those people could realize, I think you just want to be in a relationship with me either more for the status or the image, or maybe because you think I don't love and believe in myself. And people can be more motivated, can be more about the world, and that's kind of a driving factor in their life, but they could still want people who want to be in a relationship with them because they want them to love them. And some of these shadowy people, it's like, what? I thought we'd be happy working together in a relationship, making our life just maybe more about these things of the world and the ego and the image of it. But I think all shadowy people are kind of more like, well, I want to be in a relationship with a loving person, someone who loves me. I don't maybe want to do love, but I want to snag me a loving person to be in a relationship and kind of indulge me in my kind of more immature or defensive or materialistic ways. So I think people who are shadowy actually have the hardest time, because loving people eventually will get out of a relationship with them. If they do get in a relationship with someone who's willing to be in a relationship with them, more for the status or the ego or the image, that's why they're in it. And they're always afraid, what if someone comes along who has more status, ego, or image that they can go invest in? Because they're not in it because of love. What if they can just find someone, oh, look, this person's sad, they went through an ending. I like to play the role of a loving person, and I like people to view me as a loving person. Or look, that person's more immature and more codependent. I like to seem like the more stable, grounded, loving person. The best chances of having, I think, your life turn out the way you want is to be truthful and authentic and loving. But the loving people have shadowy people in the world that they need to sort through, and love and believe in themselves, to not settle for less than they deserve, and not take action more out of lust and greed and pride and ego. And then they will probably meet people who are more motivated and inspired to be in a relationship with them, because they too are a loving person who also has gotten in these more mismatched relationships, does not want to repeat that pattern, has learned to take responsibility in themselves. And those are people that you can have these more inspired, authentic, deep, meaningful relationships with, because that's the type of person they are. And they've done this inner work within themselves, and they've learned these lessons in life. I can either sabotage this and repeat some poor past patterns and get in a relationship like I've been in before, or I keep putting in the work and effort with the people in my life who are authentic and loving. And those people free themselves from more shadowy relationships. And the more worldly, shadowy people never got out of their ego, and they could be surprised at other people who do that. Sometimes some of the people who think, oh, I don't really have to do love, because they're kind of full of themselves, or they might have a certain status, image, attractiveness, or whatever. I think I can just use those things. There's going to be people who want to be in a relationship with me, male or female. And they could know and see other people who could do that too if they wanted. But that isn't who those people are. It's not the truth of who they are. They could have all those traits and qualities that can make people want to be in a relationship with them, but they don't want to be in a relationship with people who aren't being authentic and honest and loving, knowing that the most important thing they have to offer people is that they're a loving person. The other things are just facts, maybe, about them, that they might have status or be victorious and successful in the world, or they're charming or attractive or got social clout or whatever. But they know the most important thing they bring to the table is love. And that's what some of the shadowy people can't get. Why isn't that person trying to manipulate people? I can't believe that person is willing to do love. And then that could make some of those people wonder, why don't I do love? Why don't I kind of get out of my defensiveness or out of my head? Why don't I love and believe in myself? But then they could just give up on it and just decide, I'd rather have it just be about me, or more about these things and me be indulged. And they'll probably do that. That's a shadowy relationship. Either that, because it's not just and fair in truth and love. Who has more of what other people want? Well, then I'll indulge you, or you indulge me. And some of the people might have to indulge someone. They might be hiding. They're kind of defensive to doing that. When they were in a relationship trying to get other people to indulge them in their poor behavior, well, then they thought that was just and fair to have that philosophy of life. When the shoe's on the other foot, maybe they won't like it as much. But some people, that is their philosophy of life. That's the rules of the game. Whoever has more, and people do that in social settings too. Who has more status, image, social clout? Oh, I'm supposed to play the game of the societal hierarchy, and everybody's kind of deciding who do they think has less than other people, and who should be more indulged in a relationship and more deferred to. And some of the high vibe people is like, I'm going to let you all play that game together. I just want to be in relationships with people where we can get along, treat each other the way we like to be treated. I don't want to do the social hierarchy thing because I might dress a certain way or look a certain way or have more social. I just want to get along with people. Who's authentic? Who's honest? Who's just? Who's fair? You have what you bring to the table. I might have what I bring to the table. And let's go live life and enjoy life. And some people are like, oh my goodness, no, you can't talk to those people or go to those places or act like that or drink that or eat that or whatever. It's all this stuff. And while they're doing that and playing those games with people and always up in their head, am I going to be in the in crowd, in the out crowd? The other people aren't caught up in the illusion of the world, and they're just going and living their authentic life, enjoying people in the world who are just and fair and loving, and it doesn't matter their race, their religion, their age, to a degree. It's just like, who wants to get along? Who wants to enjoy being around each other, being friendly, being supportive, being encouraging? And some other people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe some people are doing that. So I think they're always surprised when people get out of their more egoic nature, surprised when people who could manipulate people if they were that kind of person don't, because they don't. That's not the kind of person they are. Some people didn't listen to their intuition about people. They didn't trust them because they're kind of know they would do that if they had that ability. They could have gotten in relationships with some just and fair and loving people. They were sure those people either were going to leave them one day or were just manipulating them because they know they would if they had maybe what those people had, traits or characteristics. And they had loving people in their life, but because of their own fears and insecurities and this way of viewing life and maybe not loving themselves enough to appreciate what they brought to the table, eventually they sabotage the relationship, being in their ego and their defensiveness and their fear, and the high vibe people in their life moved on, probably overwhelmed and confused. I don't know why this person is acting like this. I was trying to offer them truth and love, but the other people maybe couldn't believe that maybe you'd even want to be in a relationship with me, or keep staying in a relationship. I'm sure you're going to leave. I'm sure you're going to go get in a relationship with someone else one day. Even if those people are like, I'm working together with you and I love you and I have no interest in wanting to leave. But, people keep acting in ways that are kind of shadowy because they have these issues they don't work through. Eventually the high vibe people in their life leave. Eventually some people could come to realize the truth, but they might have kind of been in their ego and they might have maybe tried to confuse people about the truth of the situation and maybe lied about the whole situation. And some of the high vibe people in their life have no interest in being in a relationship, and they kind of saw the truth of the foundation they operated from. No more illusions about them. And, by some people living their authentic life and truth, that in itself helps kind of reveal the truth of who they are. If some people were confused, they're kind of seeing through the illusion. If other people tried to create an illusion about who you were, or they just had their own prejudice about you for some reason, they also could kind of see the truth about some other people that at one time they maybe didn't think were more materialistic or more immature or more manipulative or more full of themselves or more superficial and shallow or intimidating or abusive. Because as they keep repeating their pattern, and some of those patterns keep playing out over and over, it starts to help other people see through the illusion that some of the people who tried to create the illusion they were the more just, fair, stable, balanced, loving people are not. So there you go, Gemini. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.